Hello students in Management 3503, Managerial Risk Analysis and Decision Making. I'm Paul Craig, I'm your instructor. I thought I'd give you a quick video. I'm going to try and use this technique more often this term just to see how it works, so please bear with me as I refine my process. Myself, I have been teaching at St. Pete College for the last couple of years. After I moved to St. Petersburg from Perth, Australia, I am by trade a management consultant. I've been running large systems integration projects, managing consulting organizations around the world over the last 30 years. I moved to St. Petersburg and connected up with St. Petersburg College and have really enjoyed getting to know a number of the students and the programs. The only course I've taught so far has been the Managerial Risk Analysis and Decision Making. However, as time passes, I'm sure I'll get the opportunity to pick up some of the other leadership and strategy courses that I'm interested in. Good job on this week's assignment. I'm going to, a couple of announcements. I've set up a discussion area for us for general question and answer. I'll be monitoring this like I monitor my email, and a number of you have asked questions on email that I answered that really would pertain to the rest of the class, so please use the discussion board for those types of questions, and we'll see how effective that becomes for the class. Second, a number of you have asked about team projects. I will be posting the team project assignments at the end of week 3. I think that's a week from Sunday, and we'll be giving you team instructions and so forth at that time. I like to do that after the drop add periods because a number of people drop out and leave teams understaffed to do the project. 5 comments on this week's assignment. Number 1, you were in the discussion, you were asked to comment on and select your favorite of the PROACT or the McMaster's 5-point methodology. There is no one best methodology. I think the class votes were roughly equal on each methodology, and I think the important point here is that when you're addressing a complex decision or a complex problem, it's important that you use a methodology. As you will learn in your reading for this week about psychological traps, and later in the course from Daniel Kahneman's reading about, or writings about thinking fast and slow, as in the human condition, we have a number of things traps that we fall into that prevent us from making good decisions. And the solution to all of that is to follow a structured process. And these methodologies give us examples of structured processes that we can use. The second point from this week's discussion, someone in the class made a comment that the PROACT methodology is better when you're setting direction, and the McMaster's 5-point strategy is better for solving a specific problem. I think this view has merit, and I thank you for making that comment. Number 3, complexity is not a problem of the methodology, as a number of you commented on. The complexity is really a function of the problem that you're trying to solve or the decision that you're trying to make. And you should always have the problem or the decision dictate the amount of complexity of your analysis rather than the methodology itself. It's perfectly acceptable to tailor the methodology for the complexity of the problem. Reduce steps if the methodology or if the problem is simple and straightforward. Add steps if the problem is particularly complex. Number 4, the most common mistake in problem analysis is to begin evaluating alternatives before you fully understand the problem and have stated the problem, and before you have defined objectives. Having your problem definition and objectives prior to beginning your problem or alternative analysis is extremely important. There's a couple of popular methodologies that fall prey to this deficiency. Many of you have been in situations where you kind of evaluate the pros and cons of different alternatives. Well, that is falls to the fallacy of not understanding your objectives, and if you don't understand your objectives, pros and cons are meaningless. Similarly, SWOT analysis. Sometimes it's good for identifying alternatives or identifying new alternatives or so forth, but really it can't be done effectively outside of the context of your objectives. And the fifth point is, in the assignment this week, your assignment is to define a problem and identify the objectives. If you jump into defining alternatives or evaluating alternatives without defining the problem and the objectives, points will be taken off. Thanks a lot, and look for you again next week. Bye.